So it's been a couple of weeks since build day and I'm getting itchy to use the tools that I bought. I thought the simplest project I could start with would be to build a workbench out of 2x4s and some plywood. Here's how I did it. So the first thing that we need to do is to cut the 2x4s to size. I'm going to use two 2x4s for each leg and laminate them together so that they're all 4x4s. And I need to cut them specially so that the cross braces can fit in. I need to make a notch at the top in the front face of those 2x4s. So let's measure those to size. I've estimated around about 34 to 35 inches tall for the legs. So we'll start with that. So I have the 4 sets of legs cut to length. The next thing I need to do on the front face of each leg is I need to cut out something that's the width of a 2x4 as a notch, so that the cross brace will end up being flush with the front face. I'll do that now. So what I've done is I've taken the 2x4 and put it flush against the top here and drawn a line down the side. I'll take a measurement so that I can make the same measurement on each one, and that's 3.5 inches. So if I cut to the outside of that, then I should be flush at the top and at the sides. Now the front face is cut to size. Hopefully you can see that when the cross brace goes on there, it's going to end up being flush with the front face, and this is what I want. Because I'm going to need a lot of wood glue, what I want to be able to do is to pour the wood glue into a separate container so I can use what I want and then keep the rest. I found a gallon bottle for some iced tea. I'm just going to cut the bottom off and use that as effectively as a container for the glue. So these are 4 legs complete then. They've been glued and screwed together. We'll let them dry for a little while and we'll move on to creating the cross braces. The cross braces, we need to cut these to the size of the plywood board. Now I bought the plywood board pre-cut. It was 2 foot by 4 foot. It saves me having to rip anything. I think this is going to be big enough for me. So I'll take a measurement, a proper measurement, and then we'll cut the 2 long edges to size. As luck would have it, the measurement on the plywood itself was 47 13/16, which was just enough to allow me to cut the 2 cross beams from one single 2x4, so I'm quite pleased with that one. I need to make a slight adjustment to the length of the longest beams, mainly because I forgot there was going to be a cross beam that was going across the width of the workbench, and that means that I need to take out the width of the beam that I'm adding to still allow for the 2 foot depth of the plywood, because that's cut to length. It's not something that I can make longer, obviously, so I need to make the long beams shorter, and that should account for it. Now we've cut those to length properly, I had to do twice the width of the beam, because obviously there are 2 ends to the long beams. So these are now cut to the right length, and I should be able to attach them to the legs now. Okay, so the 2 long pieces are complete. I now need to make the side braces. Alright, the next thing to do is to cut the cross beams to the size of the width of the plywood, and we want this to be the exact length. We don't need to account here for any extra 2x4s, so let's get down to it. Four cross beams, one for the top and one for the bottom on both sides. Now comes the fun part. What I'm going to do is laminate 2 3/4 inch pieces of plywood together to form a pretty sturdy top. So I'm going to pour as much glue as I can onto here, stick the 2 pieces together and clamp it, let it dry. That will be the top of the workbench. Right, so I've clamped this down at the edges and also put the miter saw on top just to add a bit of weight, and I'll put some screws in now just to keep it together. So I've taken the miter saw off and I've put some screws in at regular intervals just to keep everything clamped together. I'm going to move this off now and we'll start cutting a few more of the cross beams. Got about was a brace at the bottom that goes the length of the workbench. I'm going to have to cut 2 more pieces the same length as I did before. I'm not going to notch anything this time, I'm just going to screw these to the back of the legs, so that should be okay. Now the next thing to do is to screw in these cross pieces, and I'm doing this on the floor. I'm not going to stand up, so that at least there's some chance of this actually being flat. I'll check with the square whether this is actually level, and it is just about good enough for government work, I think. The basic frame done. We've got the legs and the top part of the frame. I now need to put some cross braces across the top and also around the legs. So the frame is assembled now. I've put the braces across. I need to put just one more down at the bottom so I can put the other piece of plywood on. Actually, I may just leave it off. But I've put the laminated plywood on top, just rested it on top. I still need to secure it. It seems to be pretty flush. I do have a slight problem just round here where it's over the edge there, but it's flush elsewhere, so I put that down to a minor design flaw, but you can shoot me for that one if you need to. So next thing to do then is to secure this down, and then I'll put another piece of plywood down on this frame at the bottom here. I need to take some notches out of the plywood. I'll use either the jigsaw or the circular saw for that, so that it can work its way around the corners here and it can sit snugly, and we'll screw that down. And then the final thing is to attach some casters, and then we're done. Base is screwed in now, so that's the bottom shelf. I do have a lip here. Maybe I miscalculated a little bit on the sizes, but I can saw that off at a later date. I'm not going to do it now. And there's the lip on the other side as well. This is all screwed in with a brace, so that's sturdy enough. And then the top is all screwed in. Final thing to do now is to attach the casters. Here are the casters. I have two sets. Two are locking casters, and then two are just regular casters. I'll put these two on the front and these two on the back, so that I can kick them with my foot if I need to take them off. And here's the finished article. This is the workbench I built. So it runs on casters. It has the workbench top and then a shelf at the bottom for storage, and luckily it does actually fit through the garage door, so I'll be able to put it into the garage and tidy a few things up. Overall, very pleased with it. Slightly disappointed with that lip. I can fix that up with a saw, not an issue, and maybe I should have got some wider plywood, because then I wouldn't have these exposed beams, but this is very rigid. And obviously I was using it a moment ago with the circular saw, so it obviously has served some kind of purpose. Very pleased.